Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar in collaboration with Cosmos. I'm Emily, a Senior Marketing Specialist at Syvantis, and I'm joined today by Andrew Pearson, Senior Channel Manager at Cosmos. Thanks for joining us, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here today, and thanks for allowing me to join the session.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as some of you know, our live webinar had a few internet hiccups that were unideal for a live presentation, but honestly, so relatable. It happens to everyone. But we decided to re-record the webinar for anyone to enjoy in retrospect without those loading issues that were due to the interrupted internet connection. So Andrew has
Here
joined
we
me
are.
again to run through this exact webinar once again, including the excellent questions that everyone provided from our live audience. So before we begin too, I do want to give a quick shout out to Holland Just, our sales and communications coordinator, and David Flourish, our director of sales. Here at Syvantis, they are your points of contact if you're interested in a personalized demo of Cosmos. So I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to Andrew. Thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thanks, Emily, for having me on today. I'm really happy to be re-recording this so that we can get through the presentation and there's no internet hiccups or anything like that. But yeah, thanks for joining. For those of you who are going to be watching this recording, as Emily mentioned, my name's Andrew Pearson. I'm over here at Cosmos and I'm a senior channel manager. What that means is I work with our best partners like Syvantis and deliver educational sessions around reporting and analytics specifically for Dynamics Business Central Cloud. So that's my role over here, and we'll kind of dive right in. You should be able to see my PowerPoint here up on the screen. Don't worry, I'm not death by PowerPoint, but I think it's a good idea to give, the group here an idea of what we'll be talking about today and, the most important key components of Cosmos before we dive in and spend most of our time in the software. So let's get going here. Simply put, Cosmos is the first and only fully cloud-based reporting and analytics platform that was born in the cloud and built specifically for Business Central Cloud. That'll be a common theme throughout our demonstration today is that, we want to augment your investment in Business Central Cloud with a reporting tool that sits right next to it. Okay. So kind of coming in here, today's agenda, again, we're going to talk a little bit about us as a company, and then we'll touch on some key components here. We'll start in the Cosmos portal, talk about the report editor in Excel. We'll also kind of switch gears, talk a little bit about Power BI and our integration there. We'll kind of finish up with the Cosmos data engine, and then we'll go through the solutions overview. One thing that's really cool is we worked with the Syvantis team to create a trade-in offer, like a special offer for customers who are interested in, switching reporting tools or trading in what they're doing today for Cosmos. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll end up with some Q&A. All right. So a little bit about us over here at Cosmos. Everyone over here on the team, from our software engineers and CTO to our services and report specialists to, myself and the founders, we've all been working in the dynamic space for decades, right? And we've been in the space specifically with reporting and analytics for Dynamics. So that being said, when Microsoft was really kind of beating that drum, right, to move customers into the cloud with Business Central, we were there on the front lines, right? We saw that there was going to be a lot of challenges with reporting tools that were on-premise and legacy when you're trying to report in the cloud. And so that's really where we kind of came up with Cosmos, right? We sat on the sidelines. Nothing really came out that was specifically built for Business Central Cloud. So we were like, let's get the team back together and build Cosmos. One of the biggest pieces that we wanted to cover was we wanted performance to be, preeminent. We wanted that to be the best performance in the space. We also wanted to make it really easy and take a modern approach to reporting, okay? Something that's really accessible for end business users, and then something that, getting back to our DNA that we could support, right? Both of our partners like Syvantis as well as our customers alike. So those are kind of the three pillars that we stand on over here at Cosmos. Moving into this, I was talking a little bit about performance, right? And that's one of the things that we're really proud of. We've benchmarked our reporting engine at 48 times faster on average than other Excel reporting solutions out there. So again, really proud of that. And that's one of our main goals over here at Cosmos. You want to be spending your time and analyzing reports, not running them, right? So moving into some of the components that we'll spend our time in the software demonstration, we'll start off in the Cosmos portal. You can think of this as sort of your one place to log into and do everything when it comes to reporting and analytics for your daily job. Uh, you're going to sign in. You're going to be able to, add users, permissions, schedule reports to run and distribute automatically. Run reports, of course, drill into the numbers, toggle on filters. You'll also be able to, of course, build reports from scratch, right? Ad hoc reporting is really important, so it's really flexible in how you can do that. Everything is accessed directly from our cloud-based portal. Anywhere you have access to a web browser, you'll have access to Cosmos. And then, what's really important here, and you can see on the screen, is our report editor, right? It is what it sounds like. It's our intuitive design interface in Excel. So what we're doing is we're, giving you a tool chest, right? A set of tools to be able to go in, grab any and all of your Business Central data, whether it's operational data or finance, whatever it might be, living in Business Central, bring it into a familiar format of Excel and be able to lay out your reports however you see fit, right? So we'll cover this in detail in just a minute, but this is your Excel kind of conduit to your data using Cosmos. In kind of switching gears there, right? Right next to your Excel-based reports, which are incredibly important. Excel's never going away in the reporting space. It's, a really awesome tool for row and column formatted reports. We have a two-way integration with Microsoft's Power BI. A lot of organizations are wanting to look at their data holistically in more of a macro view and visualize that data, right? Because if you're in meetings, row and column reports, they're awesome, but you want to sometimes be able to see your data, look at KPIs and really glean some insights there visually. We're delivering the same Cosmos data sets that you're using in Excel into Power BI as well. So rather than a complex kind of programming exercise, what you're doing is dragging and dropping your most important data into the Power BI dashboard so that you can build out visuals. Now, the two-way integration is that we're also taking those dashboards that you built and we're delivering those back into the Cosmos portal. So everything lives under one hood and you have your Excel-based reports and Power BI reports. Last but not least, the Cosmos data engine. This is really what drives everything with Cosmos. It drives the performance piece that we talked about. It's also, cleaning your data. It's bringing in only the most relevant data for your business to report from. So, it's easily accessible. That's the benefits of a cloud-based data warehouse, okay? So, again, this is what drives Cosmos. And we'll talk about this as we kind of move through it, right? You'll notice that it's nice, clean data sets in both Excel and Power BI. And then we'll talk about the data engine towards the end. So that's all I had for the PowerPoint here. And let's dive into Cosmos itself. So I'm going to get out of my PowerPoint and you should see Cosmos up here on the screen. You'll notice it's just a one-click login. We're logging in through our Microsoft credentials, so the same ones you're using for Business Central Cloud, as well as Teams, all that good stuff. We're really seamlessly integrated here. And again, anywhere I have access to a browser, I have access to Cosmos. I'm here in Google Chrome today. So I've logged in and we're actually also connecting through Azure Active Directory. Makes things a lot easier when you're in the admin section to add users and give roles and permissions. But what you see is my landing page is in the admin section, right? It's a little bit different for me because I'm a main administrator on my Cosmos demo tenant. So this is my landing page. Most of your users who are using Cosmos, when they log in, this is the screen that they will see. Their landing page will be the report library where they'll only see reports that have been shared with them or reports that they have built. So it's not a company-wide free-for-all, right? And we'll talk about the security piece in just a moment. But this is your main kind of landing page for most of your users. But we did land in the admin section, and I'll talk about this really quickly. As you can see here, we have a few different types of licenses. We have full users, we have light users, and we have service users. Full users you can think of as like, maybe like a power user, right? These are people who are going to be able to get to the data, be able to build reports in Excel and Power BI, really do anything that you want in Cosmos. But what's nice is that even being a full user, you can pare down roles and permissions just by checking the boxes or unchecking the boxes, right? So you have a lot of flexibility there. Now, light users are users that will log into Cosmos. They'll be able to see reports that have been shared with them. They'll be able to run those reports, toggle on the filters, drill into the numbers, which we'll go through as well. They'll also be able to get to any Power BI dashboards that have been shared with them. So the difference being is these people won't be able to get to the data and build reports, but they'll be able to see the reports that have been shared with them and run them. Last but not least, the service users. These are really important. A ton of our customers leverage the service users. They're free of charge, right? But I talked about wanting to be able to support our partners and customers, really quickly, right? And so a service user is giving someone over here at Cosmos and someone at your partner at Syvantis to be able to log in. You have a question around reporting or anything Cosmos, we can, immediately support you that way. Adding new users, really simple. Again, I mentioned we're logging in through Azure Active Directory or Entra ID as they call it these days. You just choose, what type of license you want. You can type in someone's name. Maybe you just added John as an employee, create him as a user. And as you can see, you can give him permissions to do his job. All right, so that is the administrative section. Again, everything's all under one hood here. Let's get into the reporting side. So the first thing that I want to kind of direct your attention to is our pre-built report library. So up here, if I get to my report gallery, you'll notice there's a few dozen pre-built reports from day one. So as part of the 25-minute onboarding with Cosmos, you'll have access to all of these reports and they will work against, excuse me, Business Central from day one. Now, the cool part is that they're all completely modifiable, right? So let's say you're kind of going through these, you see this, I'll pick on this one here, accounts receivable detail by company, and I'm going to import that into my report library. It's about 95% of what I need, but maybe I need to drop in the company's phone numbers so that my AR person can call down for accounts receivable. So that's the idea here, is that we have, core financials, we have inventory, sales, purchasing reports, and they give you a huge head start. Okay, so a lot of our customers will start there. But, the big kind of the biggest benefit here is being able to ad hoc report. So we'll talk about that as well. Now, before I get into building a report from scratch, I want to give you an idea of what it's like as a light user, like a day in the life of a light user. I've just logged into Cosmos and I need to run a report, okay? I can come up here in my search bar and let's say I want to run an income statement. So I can type in income, it's going to pull up any report that has that in the title, and you'll see I have, access to the ones that have been shared with me. Now, let's pick on this income statement by company, and I'll go ahead and run this. Okay, so I find the play button. It's going to pull up over here my report runs, and I can go ahead and run the report. Now, we can build in filters. As you can see, we have a date range in this report for the month of June 2024. I'll run it for, but you can have as many, filters as you want by department, dimension, company, entity, whatever it might be. You can build those in. And again, we'll cover that in just a moment. But in this case, let's enable drill down because maybe we want to do further analysis on the numbers within the report, and we'll go ahead and run this report. Now, one key piece to note here is that we're actually running this report in the cloud. So we're running it here in the portal. We're not using Excel's order of operations or running this inside of Excel. So you can continue to use Excel, to do the rest of your role as a report builder, right? We're not kind of waiting for Excel to, we're not using Excel to run the report. Basically, you can run 15 reports simultaneously up here in the cloud and still be using Excel. Okay, so you can see that there's a kind of a fork in the road. I can open this in Excel desktop. Some users prefer to use the Excel desktop version. That's totally fine. You can use Cosmos and Excel desktop. I'm going to open this up in Excel Online just to give you that flavor. So we'll go ahead and open this in Excel Online. And what you'll notice is that it's a nice little clean income statement. I do want to reiterate, this is, one version of a million different ways you can build out an income statement, right? Kind of the world's your oyster here. But we have the account category, the account number, name. We have the two companies within our demo database in columns in the side of the report. And then, of course, the sum totals all the way down to net income, okay? You can have groups of accounts here. You can have this roll up and roll down. You can have a summary level, right? You can do anything that you want here. In this case, they're all kind of laid out within the report. But I just want to point out that, you can design and lay these things out as you see fit. All right. So as a light user, I've just run this report for the month of June. One of the things that I maybe want to do is kind of come in here and see what's going on with the report. Okay. So for example, if I ran this report and I'm looking at these numbers and I see 718,000 for my sales foreign domestic in my Cosmos USA company, that seems a little high. Like maybe we've never had that much for sales foreign. That would be awesome, right? But we want to kind of see what's going on with the plumbing behind the report. So I have something that I like to refer to as report level drill down. We make it really easy for you to decipher what's going on with the report just by opening up this task pane here. So you can see in the general and the data, we're summing up the totals from our GL transactions table and we're summing up the amounts, right? We've reversed the signs because these are my income accounts. And then we can take it a bit further with the filters. And we can see that the GL account number that we're filtering on is 44,200. The company is Cosmos USA, and we're pulling in the number for the month of June 2024. So everything looks good here. Let's take a deeper dive, right? Because that number still seems a little high. So what I can do is come up into here and I can drill into the transactional detail. Now, when I drill into the transactional detail, this is bringing in a very comprehensive view of all of that detail that comes from Business Central. Okay, so we're pulling in, business posting groups, descriptions, document types, pretty much everything that you want to see for that number behind the scenes right here in a brand new Excel spreadsheet. These three columns don't make sense for your analysis. You can hide them, you can take them out. Everything is pre-filtered, so you can come in here and filter off of anything. You can even grab everything and throw it into a pivot table if that's how you like to further analyze your numbers. But the idea here is, man, that number looked a little bit high. Maybe somebody double enteried, or there's an extra zero in one of the amounts here. You can go ahead and grab the document number, come up into Business Central, which will be right next to your Cosmos up here. Just drop it in and make any changes that you might need to do, right? So again, drilling down into the transactional detail here, very comprehensive view. And we also have that report level drill down here, okay? So I'm going to close out of this. That was sort of your day in the life of a light user, right? Just running a report. And then I want to talk about the security piece and scheduling reports, okay? So this income statement by company, I just run this. One of the cool pieces here is that I can schedule this to run and distribute automatically throughout my organization, okay? I can, choose maybe every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 a.m. a finance report goes out to my finance team, whatever it might be. You can get really granular with it. Last day of the month, I have, a sales report go out to my sales team, whatever you want here. We give you a ton of different options. You can even send these reports outside of your organization, right? So people who don't even have a Cosmos license can still see the report. Ultimately, it will send off an email that's a read-only Excel file. So for example, we have some customers that owe the bank a report at the end of every month. You can simply just type in their email here and it will schedule and send out a copy of that report. All right. So that's the scheduling piece. If I come over here, one last thing before I go ahead and build out a report is the security side, right? So I just built this income statement by company. And I want to be able to share this with different people, right? So maybe Aaliyah needs to see this and Jane, but Brian, he's, maybe he took on a different role. He doesn't need to see the finance report. He won't even know that this income statement by company exists. It won't show up in his Cosmos portal. However, everyone else with their check marks will see that report and be able to run it and things like that. So that's the idea there for security. And that's about it for like the features on the report for today. But let's go ahead and build out a report from scratch. I'm going to give you an idea of what it's like to build a report with Cosmos. So, okay, this is like a day in the life of a full user, someone who's going to be building reports ad hoc. I can come up here to new report, simply just click new report, and I can give my report a title. I'll do a different iteration of that income statement to just give you a different flavor, right? I mentioned it's really flexible, so we'll do like monthly income statement by company. And then we'll call it, oops, let's go statement. There we go. Statement by company. And we'll call it report, right? Because we want to give it a different title than any other report that I have in my library. We can check this out in Excel desktop and, build my report in Excel desktop. Again, if that's what you prefer, you can absolutely do that. We default to Excel Online. And one other thing to point out here is we also work, we're agnostic across different Excel platforms, meaning we work on Macs, we work on, of course, PCs, which I'm on today, but sometimes people love their Macs and that's just the way it is, but they still need to report. With Cosmos, you can still report and build in iOS Excel, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and create this report. And what this is going to do is it's going to open up a brand new workbook in Excel Online, blank slate, so that I can begin to lay out my report and do everything I need to do. Okay, so we're here, we're in our workbook, and let's go ahead and give it a title. Again, this is, ad hoc reporting completely from scratch. I'll call it monthly income statement by company. And then we'll do some formatting. I'm going to throw in some headers here. So we'll bring in our GL account numbers. We'll bring in the names of those accounts, maybe the category, subcategory, and lastly, we'll do months across the top. So just a different kind of way to view our income statement. Now, this is where I can come in and, format any way I want, right? We can drop in our company logos. We can make this thing look really nice and slick, however you want it to, look for your board reports or whatever it might be. I'm going to give myself a little space. I'm going to, clean it up a little bit so it looks a little bit nice for you all. But the idea here is we've laid out the report. This is the bones of what I want to bring into my report. There's no data yet, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to open up my task pane, much like I did when I ran that report to have that report level drill down. We're just going to pull up my task pane. And what you'll notice is that we have about 7 different kind of operators in our tool chest to build reports. Now, what's really cool here is that we know that we want to be able to democratize this solution throughout the organization, right? Make it accessible for end users. What's cool is that, these tools over here are agnostic across your data, right? So you use the same methodology, the same sequence of tools over here to build operational reports or financial reports. You don't have to learn a separate tool for each different report you need to build. It's all going to be the same methodology and sequence, okay? You can learn how to do this right when you hop off this webinar. Just go to our website. We have full training videos and a searchable knowledge base, right? A training video for anything to do with Cosmos. It's free of charge. It's right here. A lot of our customers love to learn on demand. So we've, built a comprehensive library there. You can ask our, knowledge-based questions. How do I group within a report? It's going to give you a nice video as well as, follow the bouncing ball, kind of step-by-step instructions here as well for anything that you need to do in Cosmos. So I thought I'd point that out there. Now, let's start building this report, right? The first thing that I'm going to do is build in a filter or what we call a report option. So I'm going to go ahead and click new, and I want to draw your attention to how nice and clean your data is in Cosmos, right? Because we're pulling from that cloud data warehouse. Everything is nice and clean. It's a relational database. And it allows me to do things like this. Like if I wanted to put in a year filter, I can type in year. It's going to pull up my date table and I can drop in year as my filter. Now I can throw in a default date. So I'll do like 2024. I can always toggle on that when I run my report, but that's my default date. The idea is that you can just rinse and repeat that process, right? If I want to put in a filter for dimension or, department location, you just simply rinse and repeat that process. Okay, so I've added in a report option here for year. The next thing that I'm going to do is use what's called sheet lists. Tons of our customers use this functionality. What this allows me to do, if you can remember, the first income statement that I ran, the companies were within columns in my report, right? In this case, maybe I want to have my companies across the bottom on different sheets. So that's what sheet lists allows me to do. So if I click new sheet list, I can go to company and I can just add in company as a different sheet list for each of my sheets in my workbook. Okay. What's kind of neat here is that we have functionality called child sheets. So I definitely want to talk about this concept. And what that allows me to do is not only have different companies across the bottom on different sheets, but let's say sheet one, I want it to be like a summary of all my companies, a consolidated view income statement of all my companies. Underneath that, I want it by location, and then underneath that, maybe by department, right? It gives you that child-parent relationship and a kind of a roll up, roll down within sheets across the bottom, okay? So that's the concept of child sheets, which is specific to Cosmos. All right, so moving along here, let's start bringing in some information for a report, okay? So I have, this blank space to start bringing in information. What the range list functionality allows me to do is if I want to bring in information across rows going down this way, I just grab a range here, right? I can click new range list. What do I want to bring in? I want to bring in some GL or I want to bring in my GL account numbers, right? So I open up my GL transactions table, go down to GL account number and simply just click add. Now, if I click save here off the bat, it's going to bring in all of my GL accounts from Business Central. But maybe I want to pare that down a little bit. What we can do is just grab the filters and add one in, and then tell Cosmos, hey, when the GL account number is between these two ranges, that's what I want you to bring in for this section, right? So I'm going to bring in my revenue accounts here and just click save. Okay. Now, one more range that I want to bring in, I mentioned I want to do months across the top because we want our income statement by month. So this is going to bring in data going out across my columns. So I'm going to grab a column format or a column shape for my range, click new range. And what do I want to grab? I want to grab months of the year. So I can type in month, I can grab my months of the year. And I'm going to take away the sorting because that might look strange if my months were alphabetical, and click save. All right. So we're finished with our range list for now, right? We'll get back to that in a second. But now we want to start bringing in information for our GL account numbers, okay? What we use for that is field lookups, okay? If you've never used Cosmos in your life, right? This is brand new to you. What's cool is that as you're building this out, it's actually directing you to the information that is pertinent for this report, right? It's not bringing in inventory or just information that doesn't make sense for this. It's bringing in the stuff that you need, right? So I can drop down my GL transactions and I want to bring in information for my GL accounts. So I can find my GL account. I want to bring in the GL account names. I want to bring in the category, the subcategory. I'm just clicking through these. You can add as much as you want, right? But for this example, we'll just bring in those three. And then lastly, what I want to do is use my aggregates function. Okay, so aggregates allows me to sum up the totals, right? So I can click new aggregate for my months of the year. And I want to come down to my GL transactions and I want to sum up the amounts for each month of the year. Now I can do some like kind of cleanup here. Maybe I want to reverse the signs for my income accounts here. And then for filters, just to be prim and proper, I'm going to add in a filter that says, hey, Cosmos, when closing entry equals false, I want you to omit that for this section. Okay, so now I've basically finished my entire report here. I'm going to do some additional formatting. So I just type that in. I can sprinkle in Excel, right? We're in Excel, so we can use any of that functionality. So I'm just going to sum those up. And I'm going to bold this out, give it a border. But, I could redo that same process for each one of my sections here because this is an income statement. So let's add in a couple different sections. But what's nice is I can just copy and paste this down a couple times too because Cosmos has already built in the logic behind the scenes. Copy it down a couple times here. And you can probably tell what I'm going to do, right? So for this section, instead of revenue, I want to call this COGS. Instead of revenue for my third section, I want to call that expenses, okay? Now I'm going to bring it down to net income. I'm going to do some Excel calculations here, that simple stuff right there, add those up, and then just finish this up here with my top and double bottom border. And now we're pretty much completely finished. But If I go to my range list, if you remember, I can select this, which is cool because it's telling me like what section I'm working on, right? This was my original range list, bringing in my GL accounts in the name category, subcategory. Now I added another range for my months of the year, but I copied and pasted it twice more. So I had this range and this range. So we want to bring in a different set of accounts for this second range here. We want to bring in our COGS accounts. So I can simply edit my filter, come down here and say, I want to bring in my 50,000s, right? Which are my COGS accounts. Click OK. I'm going to drop that back up. And then for my last section that I copied and pasted, I want to edit that filter. I want to bring in my expense accounts, right? So simply just type in my 60,000s. I want to bring that out all the way through the end of my account string. Perfect. All right. So let me close that up and we're pretty much completely finished here. I can align these accounts to the left. And one thing that's really cool here is that I can, once I'm finished building this report out, I can preview my report. So when I preview my report, I can run it, right? And it's going to run a production version of this report. It's going to open it up in a new Excel spreadsheet online. I can pull that over to my other screen so that, I can see how it's laid out. If I, maybe need to add anything to it, some conditional formatting, whatever it might be, but I can still be in my design mode here while looking at the finished product. Okay, so that's sort of, a typical process when you're building out a report is to preview it, be able to see how everything's laid out, and then go from there. All right, so we're finished with this report. I'm going to close out and get back into my portal. As you can see, I'm in my workspace here. I've been working on this report. What's nice about this is that, I haven't checked this into production yet. If I had checked this out from production, people in my organization could still be running this report while I'm working on it. So you never run into that fire drill of, oh my gosh, someone's checked it out or someone's broken the report. It's always going to keep a copy down here so that your business can continue to run if you need to look at reports. You can drop in a company logo, a screenshot of your report, much like these down here. Do anything you want there. I'm going to check it in blank in production. And I'm going to scroll down and find that report. Okay, so here's that report I just built. I'm going to go ahead and hit that run button. I can toggle on the years here. So maybe I'll look for 2023. You can do multiple years, whatever you want to do here. But let's just go ahead and run it for 2023. And what I want to kind of point out here is that in the activity section, what you'll notice is it's actually running a separate report for Cosmos Canada and one for Cosmos USA. Okay, those are those two sheets, right? I'm going to have two different companies on different sheets across the bottom. And when this finishes, I can open this in Excel desktop again or Excel Online. I'll go ahead and open it up in Excel Online. And what you'll see is we have a nice clean income statement by month. We have our months across the top. We go all the way down to net income for our Cosmos USA and the same report for Cosmos Canada here. Let me pull this over. Again, you can format this however you want it to look, a lot prettier if you need to, but we have our months across the top down to net income with our two companies. Okay, so that's the idea there, using the report editor to go ahead and build out a report. It's extremely flexible. You can lay this out however you'd like. But that's the idea there, using our report editor, just to give you a different kind of iteration of an income statement. All right, so we've gone through sort of the admin section, right? Talked about users. We also went through running a report if I just log in as a light user and toggling on filters and things like that, as well as building out a report from scratch. Now, I'm going to kind of switch gears here and talk a little bit about Power BI, okay? As I mentioned before, Power BI is a really awesome data visualization tool from Microsoft. It's sort of a really awesome complement to your row and column reports in Excel. What this allows us to do is kind of look at our data a little bit more deeply, I'd like to say, like pull out KPIs and see how our business is doing from like a really high level view. Now, what you'll notice is we've delivered a set of sales data. So I'm going to kind of switch gears there, right? We're going to use Cosmos sales data. It's going to be your data, but we're delivering those data sets into Power BI. We're eliminating a lot of those complex kind of coding exercises, right? Where you have to build in DAX and SQL, and a lot of people download Power BI, they get to a point and it's just all of a sudden it's all programming. Okay, with Cosmos, we have a direct connection. So we're bringing in this information And for example, I can just drop this down. I can go, maybe I want to see total sales by my salesperson, and I want to I want to see that in a donut chart, right? Anything you want to do. And I want to do sales by like maybe the items that we sell or the services that we provide. So I'll drop an item category description. And then lastly, what's really nice is I can maybe look at it like where are we selling the most of these items in like different states. So I'll do total sales by the state. And then maybe I want to see that in a map form. So it really just gives us that drag and drop exercise. You can build out 15 dashboards in 10 minutes, right? And just be able to kind of come in here. Everything's going to be interactive. So I can kind of see where I am as a business, right? Something that's a little bit further along is the same sales report, or dashboard, but I've given it a title. I've added in some slicers over here so you can really get granular, like February. I want to see Jessica's numbers and things like that. It gives your users accessibility to Power BI rather than having to rely on, technical resources all the time. Now, I mentioned it's a two-way Power BI integration, right? So, typically what will happen is you'll publish this up into Power BI online, and you can absolutely still do that. You can embed these back into Teams, into BC. We don't take any of that functionality away, right? But what's cool is that because we're logged in through our Microsoft credentials up here, we realized we can deliver this back into the Cosmos portal. So right underneath of your Excel-based reports that you're building and you have for your analysis, you'll also have access to all your Power BI dashboards. One thing to note is anything that you've built off Power BI in the past, that too will show up here in the Cosmos portal if you have permissions to see those. So you don't have to crumple anything up and throw it away. It's all going to be shown here in the portal. So I can view a dashboard. It's going to ask me to sign in for the day. So I'm going to sign in using my Microsoft stuff here. And you'll see a dashboard. So I can be in a meeting, right? I can be in my Cosmos portal showing this to people and, toggle between anything. It's all interactive still, right? So I can click on anything I want in my dashboard. What's cool is that, the 16.7 million, that's going to tie up with your Excel-based reports as well, right? Because we're pulling from the same information from the same data sets, no matter whether it's Power BI or Excel. So you'll never be in a meeting and be like, oh my gosh, Power BI says 16 million. In Excel, it says 2 million. What is going on here? It's all going to tie up together there. So that's the idea. We're delivering the data into Power BI. You're only just dragging and dropping into your dashboard, and then we're delivering those back in here so that you have access to both. Okay. All right. So we talked about kind of the two complementary ways to look at your data. Power BI, that's, visualizing your data, KPIs, and, big macro level view. We have your Excel-based reports for anything that you need to build for your organization. Now, the last piece that I want to talk about here is the data management section. Okay. I mentioned that this is kind of what's underneath the hood. This is what drives the performance piece as well as the ease of use. How I was able to just point and click in Excel. Everything looked nice and I didn't have to sort through 1,700 tables, 53,000 Business Central fields. This is what drives that. Okay. So before I jump in here, most of your users won't have access to this or like be playing around in the data section. I just want to mention that, right? That this is typically owned by maybe one or two people, something like that, that have access to be able to, model the data and things like that. But again, as part of our 25-minute onboarding, we have an app up in Microsoft's App Source. It's published and validated by Microsoft. That allows us to talk to your Business Central, as you can see here, the tenant ID. Now, what we'll do next is we'll pull in information or data for the different companies that you may have. Maybe it's just one. That's cool. It'll show up and we'll pull that in. If you have multiple companies, right, we just check the box and it will pull in the information for those companies. Like if you acquire a company in the UK, you want to bring in information. Okay. Now, if I scroll down here, what's cool is I can check this data model out. Okay. Very similarly to that pre-built report library that I showed you right at the beginning, we have an extension gallery. So pre-built parts of our data model. As you can see here, we've been doing this for a really long time. We know pretty much exactly what everyone needs to be reporting from when it comes to accounts payables, receivables, your GL, inventory, purchasing, and sales, right? The idea is that maybe you're a services company, you don't have inventory. You wouldn't import this section of the data model, right? We want to make this as clean as possible for your business to be reporting from. But let's say you want to import all of these parts of the Cosmos data model pre-built. You can absolutely do that. What that does is it snaps together to create that reporting data model that I was using in Excel and parts of it in Power BI. Okay. So if I go to this like sales transactions table in my data model, I want to talk about this for a second here. Okay. I was pulling from my sales transactions table when I was using Power BI. That's actually made up of 8 different business central tables here across the top. Now, most average business users that don't understand like the back end of the data model or the database in Business Central, most people don't, right? They don't have to do this in every single report. They don't have to link up the different tables and manage that in each of the reports. It's already done for them in the data model. That allows me to, do that drag and drop, point and click in Excel kind of functionality when I'm building out my reports. All right, this is all completely modifiable. I can add fields to this. I can take fields away, do whatever I need to do. And that kind of leads me into the staging section. Okay. So we realize, maybe you have some custom tables and fields. Maybe Syvantis has helped you along with that. Maybe you have other ISVs that have custom tables and fields that come along with that product, right? We're going to be able to access any and all of those. Anything that lives in Business Central will show up over here. Okay. So the idea is that you probably will never be using workflow webhook entry or any of these down here. We don't bring those into the reporting data model over here. Okay, so we give you sort of the option to, and we read in everything that lives in Business Central, but we only want you to bring in the most relevant data for your business needs. Now, let's say these top 2 were custom tables and fields. You can simply just check the box. They're going to pull up over here in your data model, and you can, deliver those to your end users to report from. So, for example, if I have this customer table and I want to add in address as a field so that my people can report from it, I can simply check the address piece here. I can go into my data model, go to my customer table, and this is just really simple here. I can call it customer address, right? So business specific kind of terminology here. We'll call it text, right? Because we want to bring in a field that's called customer address. I'm going to create that, and I'd simply just choose address and click the box here. Okay. So now when I run the pipeline, all my users can report off of the customer address field under the customer table. Okay. That's a really simple example there, but we wanted to, again, make this accessible for everyone. So, all of this is kind of done behind the scenes. Lastly, once I've made that change, remember I brought in a field called customer address into my customer table so that my folks can report off of that. I can just hit publish pipeline. Cosmos will go in, grab that change, and pull it into your data model so that it's live. Your people can report from that. The idea is like if someone's like, hey, we need to report from the address field in our customer table, that's how you would do it. Now, to finish up here, what's nice is that, using a cloud data warehouse, it gives you that performance piece, right? It makes it so that you can run 15 reports simultaneously in seconds. It allows for that nice clean data sets in Excel and Power BI. But, you need to be able to get that fresh, clean, up-to-date data, right? So today, your data models will refresh overnight, right? It's on a schedule to refresh overnight, but we know that there's going to be times during the week or at the end of the month where you need to have up-to-date data more often than that. So what we have up here is simply just hitting the run pipeline button on demand. Cosmos will go in, grab any changes, GL transactions or whatever is changed inside of BC. When you hit the run pipeline button, Cosmos will go in, grab that, pull it into the data model in seconds. Okay. So, if you need to run this a few times a day, you can absolutely just hit this when you need to. All right. So I'm going to wrap up here. Okay. We kind of started here in the administration section. Again, everything's accessible directly from the portal here. When it comes to admin, we went through reporting, running reports, drilling down into the numbers, kind of sorting through our report library here. We also talked about our pre-built reports that come from day 1 out of the box. Then we built out a report from scratch, and then we talked about Power BI. Okay, finishing up with that data model section, kind of what's going on behind the scenes. Why is this easy to use and really fast? That's where the data management section comes in. But that's really what I had for you today. That was, everything with Cosmos. So I hope that covered everything here today for the presentation. But again, as Emily mentioned, I'm happy to go in and dive into any of this on a specific demonstration for anyone that wants one. Now, to kind of finish up here, I'm going to get back into my PowerPoint here and talk a little bit about the awesome offer that we have. Okay. As Emily mentioned, we worked with the Syvantis team to kind of come up with something that would, help out some customers. If you're finding that you're running into challenges with your current reporting tool, or, maybe you're not using anything and just, kind of using Excel, but you want to get into something that's more dynamic, more flexible. What we've done is we've come together and we're going to offer from now until November 29th, a trade-in, right? So you're going to trade in your current reporting solution or process, and then we'll give you a 25% off your first year's annual subscription of Cosmos. Okay. So if you have any questions around that, please feel free to reach out to the Syvantis team, David and Holland and Emily over there, or myself. Okay. And finishing up with some questions, I'll kind of pass things back over to you, Emily.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andrew, for
Totally.
having the time to do this again, just to make sure that everybody got to see the full demonstration that you had planned.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so we did have a bunch of really great questions. So I wanted to make sure that we covered those as well in this version, this re-record. So the first one was, can you get Cosmos through to Cosmos through Business Central, or do you have to log in to Cosmos directly?
Very good question. So we're going to be logging into Cosmos separately. It's the same credentials, same Microsoft credentials that you use for Business Central, but it's a different application, right? So you can't get to Cosmos directly from Business Central. You just log in for the day through the browser.
Excellent. The next question was, we have a lot of custom tables and fields in BC. Will those be available in Cosmos? And also we have some other ISV products. Will those tables and fields be available to us as well?
Yeah, really good question. More often than not, there are customizations made to Business Central because no organization is the same. The answer to that is yes, you'll have access to anything custom. If you have like a payment product built into BC or anything like that with custom tables and fields, you'll have access to that as well. And we'll help along with marrying that in, those custom tables and fields into the pre-built models that we have.
Excellent. Next question. And I know you touched on a couple of these already, but just to make sure that we address them all, what is the lag time between BC entries and data arriving in Cosmos?
Very, very astute question there. So the lag time, if you're making entries into Business Central, and then you come into Cosmos and hit that run pipeline button, that's going to bring in anything that's changed in Business Central in seconds, right? So if you can think about where the conduit to your data in Business Central into Excel and Power BI, right? But the data engine is bringing that into our cloud data warehouse. You hit the run pipeline button, it's going to go ahead and grab it incrementally. Anything that's changed, not everything from Business Central, only things that have changed, pull it into our data models in Cosmos in seconds.
Awesome. And can you run multi-table reports?
Multi-table reports, yes. So if we kind of reverse back when I was in the data management section and I clicked on the sales transactions table in our data model, you notice it was made up of 8 different Business Central tables. Now, that's how we kind of perform that delivery is that, yes, you can report off of multiple tables and it's all built into that data model. So end users don't actually have to, know what goes into building out a report, right? It's all going to be built into the data model, so you don't have to be a database expert. So yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, next question. This person did not quite understand why you would need to update the pipeline, and can you go over that again?
Sure, sure. So there's kind of two different things there. There was the publish pipeline and then there was run pipeline. When we're publishing the pipeline, that goes that for an example. So if I'm sitting here and I'm saying like I really want to see the customer address in my customer table, right? I can reach out and say, "Hey, I really need to see this for reporting." You can make that change. It took me like 10 seconds to just make that change, hit publish pipeline and then that's delivered so that I can report off of my customer address under my customer table. Now, when I'm running the pipeline, the reason for that is because we're taking the data, putting it into those nice clean data sets, and we need to update that data incrementally, right? So just on demand, hitting the pipeline button will refresh and give you the most up-to-date data from Business Central and Cosmos. So that's the idea there.
Excellent.
And I guess to add to that, connecting directly to the database, it hits on Business Central, right? So you're kind of at the mercy of Microsoft's, it only allows you to pull so much information at a time, right? So that's why reports take a long time to run, things like that. That's why we're pulling it into the data warehouse so that it just takes seconds when you hit run pipeline.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, related to that, can you set up a schedule for the pipeline to update automatically?
Yes. So today we have a schedule. It's overnight. Okay. But again, we realize you might need to run it more often during the day, end of the month, whatever it is. So you have that on-demand ability. Now, again, in the future, in the very near future, we're going to be able to set up, or you're going to be able to set up multiple schedules a day. So it's like more often a day, maybe like every hour or something like that, and you'll still have access to the on-demand run pipeline. So that's coming down. That's coming down the pipeline here. Our engineering team is working on that. But today, just scheduled overnight, and then you have that on-demand button.
Excellent. Okay.
Yep.
Another question. We use a
Sure.
445 calendar. Does it use the accounting period set up in BC or actual calendar months?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So we have a lot of customers that use 445 fiscal years, right? And so you can do that two ways. If you have that set up in Business Central, we can go ahead and link up that way. We have a really comprehensive date table that I was using. You saw in when I was building those reports. That gets loaded into your data models from day one, okay, which has a lot of different ways to look at your data. But the short answer here is yes, absolutely. We can. I guess sort of integrate with however your fiscal calendar is with your company.
Wonderful. Okay. Next question. Do we need to install the Cosmos add-in ourselves, or is the add-in embedded in the Excel Online version as we access it via Cosmos?
Yes. So with onboarding, you'll go into the Microsoft's app source, right? And so from there, once we download the app and connect everything to Business Central, you won't have to download or install Cosmos on each machine. That's the beauty of the cloud, right? Some of the on-prem solutions out there, you have someone going around with a thumb drive to install updates and in the Excel. From here, we're centrally pushing it out. So on onboarding, yeah, we'll work with you to get Cosmos onboarded with you. But from there, it's just, centrally pushed out. You don't have to install anything on your local machines.
Excellent. Okay.
Mhm.
Just a couple more questions.
Sure.
If we decide to move forward, how long would it take to get up and running?
So to get up and running, it's 25 minutes. We book a 30-minute call. You're up and running. You have access to the pre-built libraries from day one there, access to all the data models. So, to get Cosmos operational within your organization, 25 minutes, right? We also have something called the white glove onboarding. And so just to point that out, we'll work with you to build two reports off of your data, as well as two 1-hour training sessions for the white glove offering. That could take a week or two, right? So that we work through the steps of building the reports and the trainings and things like that. But in general, 25 minutes to be operational with Cosmos.
Very cool. Very
Yep.
cool. All right. The next question was, do we have to go through Syvantis for help and support, or can we come directly to you?
Yeah. So the answer to that, I would say, it's sort of both ways, right? You can absolutely go to Syvantis for support with us, and we have a really tight relationship. They can ping me, knock on my door, and I can help there. But it's really at your preference, right? Reach out to Syvantis with questions. They have answers. We have answers too, and we work really closely together. So it's sort of one of those things. We're partners, so loop me in. Reach out to David in Holland or whoever it might be, your ERP consultant at Syvantis, and I'll probably be on there too. So we'll be able to support you immediately.
Beautiful. All right. And the last question was short and sweet. Just
Okay.
cost, question mark.
Yeah, cost. So you can definitely reach out to your ERP consultant over at Syvantis, and they can share costs with you. Now, the base package over here at Cosmos for a annual subscription is $6,000. That comes with one full user, and then you can add users a la carte. To add the Power BI functionality, that's a feature. It's not per user. That's only $1,800 a year annually. But yeah, it's one of those things that if this is something that looks interesting, we can absolutely work with you on like sort of a quote plan, right? Something we can go through and kind of nail down those licensing pieces.
Awesome. And then can you speak to the trade-in offer as it applies to the cost for the first year one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we have come up with a trade-in offer, right? It's the idea is that, all right, maybe you're kind of running into a lot of challenges with your current reporting tool, or maybe you don't have anything in place, but you're running into challenges, right? It's sort of you trade in your current process or your tool for 25% off whatever you're buying with Cosmos for the first year.
Excellent. And that is
Mhm.
through November 29th, 2024, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. All
Mhm.
right. Well, that was everything for the webinar today.
Cool.
I want to thank you again, Andrew, for joining us for the live webinar and then for this more internet heavy re-record, internet solid re-record.
Yep.
But to everyone who is watching, please feel free to reach out to Syvantis or to Andrew directly. It'll kind of lead to the same place. We'll all work together to get you up and running with Cosmos.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you so much again, Andrew.
Totally. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on today. Glad we could make it through. No hiccups on the internet. And yeah, please feel free to reach out to support@syvantis.com. Your resource over there that you work with on a daily basis, or myself, Andrew at cosmosdatatech.com. And we're happy to talk to you.